novels, which is known as a bestseller, right? And he says that they are unrealistic, and also you can say the characters are way apart from each other. On the opposite, his own life story is the same as this bestseller story, isn't it? So when we talk about that, this is a kind of a story where we find out how we criticize to the books of others, right? And we believe that what those books are nothing but are made of fictional. But at the same time, our life is somehow called as a relevant to such kind of a story, which have published and which have been written by the greatest or famous author. So here also we find out the bestseller story is something like that. So the story begins with how now the author uh, begins the story. Who is the author? The author is nothing but Oliver Henry. So the story begins by stating that what one day last summer I went to Pittsburgh. Well, right, I had to go there on business. So I refers to whom? I refers to the author or the writer who is talking about nothing but a particular day. And that was, you can talk about, the author said that last year in the month having summer season. And he says that what he had to go to Pittsburgh last summer for work and not for leisure or enjoyment. So he pointed that what he said that my chair car was profitably well filled with people of the kind one usually sees on chair cars. When we talk about the chair car, what do you mean by that? The meaning of chair car is called as a railroad car having pairs of chairs with individually.
Sir, which paragraph?
I'm starting from the beginning.
But you left in you but you left at 30 paragraph in last class.
30 paragraph.
Yes, sir.
You want me to teach from there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no issue. I'll just go for the recap of it and we'll discuss that. 30 paragraph means, can you tell me the line?
The rest was red mud, mules, and vectored hounds.
The rest was red mud, mules, and speckled hounds, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so fine. I'll just recap the things and try to connect it. Right. So, like I pointed, what the topic bestseller, which is written by Oliver Henry, where the writer is talking about what a particular day, and that was last year in the months having summer season. He says that what he had to go to Pittsburgh last summer for work, not for, you can say, leisure or enjoyment. And he was sitting on a railroad car with the chairs having adjustable backs. And he found the chair car to be filled with nothing but a sufficient number of people. It means that what the car was neither empty nor too full. So then he talks about the passengers sitting in the car, and there were ladies wearing brown colored dresses, and those of the dresses more made of silk, made of silk with the yokes, right? With the yokes, and also find out laces and uh, dotted wells or spot mark wells as a part of their dress. So, and these women were the ones who refused to, open the windows. Otherwise, their hairstyle get, disturbed or disrupted. So then there were men also who were generally considered as the business people or businessmen. So the writer he found out what the writer leaned back or called as made himself comfortable in his chair. He was sitting on the chair number 7 and he leaned idly. Idly means called as lazy manner, right? Or in a comfortable manner. It means that he had nothing to do at that moment except to look around and observe his surroundings, right? He then spotted what? He then spotted another passenger and he observed the man with no interest, right? Only the head of the man that was visible above the back of the chair or back of his chair. And the man had a nothing but a small black bolt. You can say that, yeah, small black, not bolt actually, bald. Bald means called as when the middle part is having a less hair. So, and was sitting on chair number 9. So, the author was, or the writer was in a 7, whereas the man that was sitting, or who was sitting at the number called as a 9. So, we also find out that suddenly the man sitting on the chair 9, so who threw a book, or the book was fallen on the floor between his chair and the window. The writer looked at the back, and what did he see? He saw that it was the book. It was the book that named, or the title named, "The Rose Lady and Traveler." So the book was a popular one, a popular book, and was considered to be one of the best-selling novels. So the man sitting on chair number 9. So the one who was reading the book turned his chair towards the window. So the writer, or the author, identifies him to be an old acquaintance. Old acquaintance means old friend of him. The man sitting on chair number 9 turned out to whom? Turned out to be John A. Piscott, right? Who is John A. Piscott? So John A. Piscott of Pittsburgh. So who is nothing but a traveling salesman. Now here the writer is trying to define the characteristic of the person and also introducing the person. So who is that? He is John A. Piscott of Pittsburgh, and a traveling salesman for a company dealing with what? Dealing means what? That called as a sales. So that sells large sheets of glass. So he had not seen the man in the last 2 years, isn't it? So it had been, you can say that, just 2 minutes since John A. Piscott turned his chair. In those 2 minutes, so they had shaken their hands and had discussed also what? And had discussed various topics. What are the various topics they discussed? They discussed the topics like rain, they discussed prosperity, they also discussed health. They means what? John of Piscott and the writer. So residence and destination. So they would have, continued so far, or they have continued on, and would have talked what? Talked about politics. However, what do you find out? The writer did not show his interest about politics, and so he was, very much happy to know that he was not that unlucky, isn't it? So while talking to John of Piscott, the author discovered that what? The author discovered that the man believed plate glass to be the most important resource in the world. Which one? Plate glass. So why? Now, because John of Piscott was working uh, as a, means as a salesman in that particular company that deals in nothing but a plate glass. And therefore, John of Piscott believes that what? Plate glass to be the most important resource in the world. The author was amused. Author was amused by the what? The author was amused by the way John referred to plate glass as our, right, as our plate glass. So John also considered the Cambria Steel Works. So Cambria Steel Works to be the best company, and that when a man was in his home or hometown, most of the time there was a good possibility for the man to be a good and humble person, isn't it? So even the author continued by stating that what? Now the writer was getting to know about John and his ideas more. So John then told whom? Told the author the reason why he was just traveling in the train, because he said that more customers were buying their plate glass ever since the company held a convention. So what do we mean by convention? That called a meeting in which in that meeting in which they discussed some strategy, some strategy means some tricks to increase the sale of the resources, or that called as a plate and glass. So in other words, you can say that their new strategy resulted in what? Resulted in, you can say that, an increase in the sale of plate glass. So, and John of Piscott also said that he was going to Coketown. Then John changed the subject by addressing the book. Addressing the book means the book which was fallen. So then you would find out what John changed the subject by addressing the book he had thrown away before. So the book was still on the ground. Therefore, the reason why it is referred to as a what? Discarded. Discarded means called as a rejected book. So, means he considered that the book was nothing but a useless or discarded or rejected. So he moved the book slightly and asked the writer if he had read the book or not. Which book? That called as the Rose Lady and the Traveling. So whether the author had read that book or not, he then described the book as the kind of a book where the hero. So in that particular book, so in that book, what do we find out? The author John O. Piscott said that this is the kind of a book where the hero or the male main character. So the male main character means in that particular book, so the main character, so who is considered as a male protagonist, he is an American one. He is an American one, and he is rich, fashionable, upper class person from Chicago, and who falls in love with what? Who falls in love with a princess from Europe, right? So it means John O. Piscott was telling about the main character of that storybook or novel, which is called as The Rose Lady and the Traveling, and where means the writer, John O. Piscott was telling about that the main character of that particular story is nothing but falling in love with one of the girl who is nothing but a princess from Europe. So the princess, you can say that is traveling under fake name, right? And the hero is in love with her, that he follows the princess to her father's kingdom, right? Or the princely state from where that girl belongs. Then he assumed that he had read such a book because most of the bestsellers often had such a plot. So in that case, what do you find out? This is the kind of a love story where means one of the person who falls in a love with the one of the women who is nothing but a rich and famous, and that woman is nothing but disguised her true identity, right? And means John of Piscott realized that what such kind of a stories are common, right? Why they are common? Because any book you find out or any book you start reading, you would find out such kind of a characters are there, love stories are there, right? So John continued talking and said that in the bestseller he was reading, right? So John continued talking about that and also said that what now in the bestseller he was reading, the hero follows the princess, right? The main character of the story follows the princess. Why? So maybe he has nothing but a partial love towards that woman. So the author, John of Piscott, also said that the hero follows the princess to her home and finds out her true identity. So, and the true identity is what? She is the princess. So the princess is referred to as what? Chair warmer. The princess is referred to as what? Chair warmer. So when you talk about chair warmer, what do you mean by that? Chair warmer means someone who accomplishes little. So who successfully completed nothing, right? So that's what is called as a chair warmer. So the princess is referred to as a chair warmer, means who did not complete anything, because a princess whose father or means you can say that king is still living, does not have much power in her hand, right? John further also said that what? John further said that like in all the other bestsellers, the hero meets the princess in the evening and has a conversation with her, which is, as long as the 10 pages of the book. So you would find out that John O. Piscott just narrated or described that what are the things contained in that book. So he pointed that the 10 pages are there where you would find out how the hero meets the princess in an evening or in a particular evening and how their conversation went on. And the kind of information or the dialogues of that hero and heroine, so covered with nothing but a 10 pages. So the princess then reminds the hero that they are not allowed to talk. They're not allowed to talk. Due to what? Due to their differences. What kind of a differences that you would find out? The differences is nothing but means a hero. So means who is nothing but a kind of a job holder, whereas the heroine is nothing but the princess. So the heroine response declares what? Declares something about Americans' uncrowned sovereigns, right? When we talk about uncrowned sovereigns, what do you mean by that? So sovereign means called as a ruler or ruling, or means the supreme ruler. So here when we say that uncrowned supreme sovereigns, it means called as a rule or supreme ruler, right? Supreme ruler prince who has not yet received any kind of a coronation, right? So in that case, if I talk about this particular man's idea, where the hero in response of declares that what? Now something about Americans, uncrowned sovereigns, or you can say that means a supreme ruler prince who has not yet received any kind of a thing or any kind of a reward. It means that what? The hero gives an explanation of how it is okay for them. That means what? Hero as well as the princess to talk to each other. Why? Because means although he is not a king, right? Although he is not a king means the hero is not a king, but he lives like one. So he lives like one means he lives like a one of the kings, right? And this speech is long enough to fill 3 pages of the novel. So it indicates that John Piscott is stating that the book is discarded or rejected or useless. Why? Now, because the book covers or contains with the kind of dialogues or information, those information you can say that what are useless, because those information content with the what? Now content about how the hero means, uh, narrates or discusses his his quality, even how they are discussing on what, discussing on Americans uncrowned sovereigns, and how the princess is stating that means she does or they shall not talk to each other, right? All such kind of things which are filled with nothing but in that book, right? So even the writer then said that the hero then meets the king. The writer then said what? Means the writer said to whom? The writer said to John Piscott that what? The hero then meets the king. That is the father of the princess, right or not? So, and does not allow the bodyguards or the soldiers stop him from meeting the king or the princess. The hero is also a great fencer. Great fencer means great warrior. It means that the hero is generally better than the king when it comes to combat. Combat means called as fighting. So John Piscott agrees with the writer that whatever the writer was saying is correct. So he then said, John Piscott said that what the book he was reading came under the category of what? High-ranking books. So what do you mean by high-ranking books? So the meaning of high-ranking books is indicating as a bestseller book, right? So he added that he knew some things about literature as well. So who? John Piscott. So who gave that what? He knew certain some info some things about what? Some things about literature, English literature, right? Even though he was working in a company that deals in plate and glass, but he knew or he read means what? He read literature. So Piscott said that in real life, right? In real life, what happened? Means such kind of a things do not occur. People married someone who was on the same rank, right? It's not like what there was a person who belonged to a poor class and loved to a means a high class princess, and they get into the marriage. It doesn't happen. It happens in a dream or it happens in a stories, but in real life, what happened? Now, people married someone who was on the same rank. Same rank means I'm poor and I will search the girl whom I want to marry. So, belong to the same society, right? Or same rank. A man usually selected what? A girl whom he had known previously. For example, a girl who went to the same high school, or a girl who belonged to the same clubs as him, right? Basically, a man generally picked what? Generally picked a girl with whom he had spent some time while he was a teenager. So after saying this, what happened? Piscott picked up the book and started nothing but, flipping the pages, right, to find the one he needed, right? He then told the writer what? Now to listen to the content of a particular page. So it means he opened a particular page where he means started narrating or started reading before the writer. He told the writer that he was narrating a scene, right, from the story in which the hero is sitting with the princess. The hero is sitting with the princess at the back of the tulip garden. So in that case, when we talk about that tulip garden, it's nothing but a kind of a name of the garden. So even the author also said that the hero was telling the princess to not speak about something that made him lose faith in his ambition. Right. So lose faith in his ambition means uh, here the hero was telling to whom? Telling to the princess. The hero was telling whom? The princess. What? Not to speak about something that made him diffident, that made him discouraged, right? Or that made him lose faith in his ambition. So because the hero had certain ambition, so he told her who means the hero. The hero told the princess she was the dearest and sweetest of earth's most fair and beautiful flowers. So it means here the hero was trying to, flatter or trying to butter the princess and stated that she was the most fair and beautiful flowers. So she was a star who was set high in the sky. So even the girl or the princess was compared with the most fair and beautiful flowers. So the girl was also compared with the star, right? Um, who was set high in the sky, means very far from the, the lover. So in a place referred to as a what? As a royal heaven, right? Royal heaven. So he then said that what? While she was brilliant and radiant, who was brilliant and radiant? So while she was brilliant and radiant, means the princess was brilliant and radiant, he was only a man with none of the radiance that she possessed, right? So he was only a man with none of the radiant that she possessed. She possessed means was some kind of a shining that uh, she means whatever the kind of a quality that the girl had, so the same kind of a quality or the same kind of a shining, the same kind of a means position or same kind of a fame that the men did not pose or did not possess. However, means um, he said that what he said that or the main character of the book, he said that he was a human being with a heart, right? He had the ability to do, he had the ability to dare and also aspire. So he may have no royal power except the title of being a prince of an uncrowned sovereign, right? So what happened means here you would find out means he was a human being with a heart. Who was a human being with a heart? The lover. So he had the ability. So the man had the ability to do what? To do dare or courageous and also aspire or dream to achieve something. So the man may not have the royal power like the princess have or princess father have. So except the title of being what? Except the title of being a prince of an uncrowned sovereign. Uncrowned sovereign means called as a means that's something called as a no power or no ruling power. You can say that. But he also had an arm. Who also had an arm means the hero also had an arm and a sword, which were powerful enough to nothing but free anyone from any kind of a enmity or evil force. So what the hero tried to tell was that even though the possibility of the princess and him to be together were low, so there is no chance of getting married, right? Getting married between this princess with the common person, right? So he said that what, but he had the ability to do what? He had the ability to means get united. So he said that what, even though there is no chance of getting united, so he would continue to do and he would continue to aspire for that goal. Aspire for that goal means which goal he was still telling. So he was telling but nothing but called as a uh, goal of achieving to that particular goal, right? So are you getting my point?
Yeah.
Did you understand so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, so we understood that I mean, so what the hero tried to tell was that even though the possibility, even though the possibility of what the princess and him to be together means together into the marriage were very low, or called as there is no possibility of getting marriage or getting married between them. So he would continue to do what? He would continue to aspire for that girl, right? So then you would find out that what? Uh, you would find out that the next, here it is stated, Piscott also added that what? Piscott also added that what the writers of bestsellers like to compare what? John of Piscott. So, who added that what? The writers of bestsellers, he liked to compare the power of the aristocracy. When we talk about aristocracy, it means called as a sophisticated, rich, high class with the negligible power playing businessmen possess. So you would find out that the aristocratic family, so they don't want to, means they don't want to have the you have the kind of a person who is nothing but a plain businessman, right? So he said that, when John A. Pisket said that what did not fit with what happened in real life, right? He did not see the logic or the reason why so many people waste their hard-earned livelihood. Hard-earned livelihood means what? Hard-earned means life or called as their job or had earned, you can say that money. So over these bestsellers means the people who spent uh, huge money on such kind of a books. So no one had ever heard of any real life story. So it means John of Piscot was there doubting on that particular book, that the book could not be real, and the book means did not give any kind of a benefit to the readers, right? It only takes huge money from the readers and just giving nothing but us information which are somehow called as useless, right? So that is what he pointed. So he did not see the logic or any kind of means um, what do we say that understanding or the reason why so many people waste their hard-earned money so over this such kind of a books. No one had ever heard of any real life story where something so far-fetched, illogical had occurred. So far-fetched means the kind of a story which have given in the book is nothing but nowhere matched with the means real life. And John of Piscot also believed that the story which is present in the book is nothing but an illogical one. So the writer replied. So at the same time, the writer who sat uh, means in front of him, so who replied that he had not read a bestseller in a long time, but he had some rough idea. Who had some rough idea? The writer. The writer had some rough idea about the common plot such books had, and it was quite similar to what John was describing to him, right or not? So what John of Prescott was describing to the writer could, get a kind of an idea about the book. So then he changed the subject by asking John. What did he ask to John? So he asked John to tell more about John of Piscot, or more about means that particular person or called as John of Piscot. He asked John if he was doing all right in the company, because now you would find out the writer did not show any interest of listening about that book. the writer wanted to know about John O. Piscott, and that's why the writer asked John O. Piscott whether he was all right in the company. Which company? The plate and glass company where he was working in. So, John Piscott here stated that what means by showing the kind of a brightening face with happiness, he told the writer that what he was doing an excellent job in the company and his salary had raised two times since he had last seen what he had last seen the writer, right? Last seen the writer means 2 years ago, right? Which was 2 years ago. He got a commission too. He got a commission from whom? He got a commission from that plate glass company. He had a nice piece of real estate under his name. So even he has the house also. Next year, he said that the farm was going to sell him a part of the company. It means called as a share. Uh, and finally, he concluded that he was about to be greatly wealthy in a few years. Who? John of Piscott. So the writer then asked means John of Piscott whether he had found someone whom he was going to marry or if he was having a married relationship with someone. So it's a kind of a thing which is a common discussion where the writer asked that whether he loved he loved anyone or he married or not. So in that case, means you would find out Piscott gave a big grin. Grin means what? That called as a white smile. And asked the writer if he had not told him anything about that yet. Right. So Piscott gave a what? That called it a big smile, and then after asked the writer whether he had not told him anything about that yet. So when John of Piscott did not say anything about his personal life, the writer surprised. Right. The writer got surprised that he had taken some time off his plate glass business to do some romance. So John said that he had not done any romance and said that what he would tell him all about it. So John said that what he had not done any romance, and he said also that he would tell him all about it. So he began his story. Now understand that means at the first part you would find out John O. Piscott was telling the story that he was reading in the book called The Rose Lady and the Traveling. Now means a writer approach him to tell about his personal life. And at that time, means he began his story. And what was his story? He explained that he was traveling south to Cincinnati, right? South to Cincinnati. So you can talk about that. Cincinnati is the name of the place. So he was traveling south to Cincinnati around 18 months ago, right? And what happened when he saw the most beautiful girl sitting across the Azure, right? Sitting across the Azure means next to her, next to him. So he did not fall head over heels for her. He did not fall head over heels for her, means he did not show any kind of a, um, uh, attraction or called as some kind of a feelings for her. But he felt like she was the sort of girl means he would want to be with forever. So John F. Piscott means at first did not show any interest, but later means John F. Piscott thought that she was the same girl with whom means he wanted to live uh, his life, right? So now that's something called as interesting. So what happened means John F. Piscott started narrating about the girl a lot. And what did he tell about the girl? He said that the girl was reading a book and did not interact much with anyone around her. So generally what happened when you are sitting in the chair car or in train, so you try to make friendship with the other passengers or you um, um, start talking with the other passenger. But here what happened, the girl who was there with whom John O. Piscott had nothing but a love, right? Or called as a showed some kind of a feelings. So there you would find out the John O. Piscott said that what means the girl was reading a book and did not interact much with anyone around her. So this made her character look more attractive to John. So he did not look at her. So who? John O. Piscott did not look at that girl, but he could see her. He could see her from what? From the corner of his eyes. means like like this. So he then saw that she got out of the carriage. She got out of the carriage means that college got out of that you can say train and went to a cottage. Went to where? Went to cottage means called as a big bungalow. So with a big garden, with the vines, right? So when we talk about that vines, it's called as what do you mean by vines? Vines means called as a climbing or trailing woody stemmed plant, right? So here it is stated that means the girl finally did what? Means just went to uh, a cottage. So with a big garden, with the vines running over the porch. So John had no intention of speaking her. But the problem is called as John of Piscot was just so attracted to that woman that John of Piscot decided to, forget about the plate class company for a time being or for a certain time, right or not? So even you would find out that means John of Piscot followed that girl. So John said that the girl got got aboard got aboard a different cable car, cable car at Cincinnati. She then took a sleeper, who that the girl, so that the girl changed many of the communication or medium of communication. So first it's called as a carriage, second it's called as a cable car at Cincinnati. Then the girl took a sleeper and traveled to where? Traveled to one of the place named called Louisville. Louisville. So so the author stated that I contrived to keep out of her sight as much as I could, but I never lost track of her. So the last station she got off at was away down in Virginia, about 6 in the evening. There were about 50 houses. The rest was, you can say that mud. कहाँ गया है? The rest was red mud moles and speckled wound. So when we talk about that, the author wanted to say that he tried to stay out of her sight, but it seemed what? Unrealistic. It seemed unrealistic that he was able to do this successfully. He did not lose track of her, and she eventually stopped at Virginia at about 6 in the evening. Virginia was not densely populated, and there were only 50 houses there. So thereafter, you would find out that John saw that the girl was meeting up with a tall old man with a smooth face, that is a shaven face, and he had gray hair. He was appearing or he was looking as proud as Julius Caesar. Now you can see that the how did the author compare the person with the whom Julius Caesar, as he was delighted or very happy to meet her. A little later, what happened? John observed that the old man's clothes were worn out. He took the small bag. He took the small bag the girl had, and they started talking while walking on the floor made up of planks. So they were going towards a hilltop, top of the hill. You can say that John followed. John followed them. He was not too far, but too close to them. He was appearing or he was pretending or he was presenting himself to search for a ring made up of a red colored precious gemstone in the sand. He made up a story that his sister had lost the ring last Saturday when they were out for a picnic there, isn't it? Now, in that case, what do you find out? Means here the author stated that what means he found that old man, so who with a smooth face and a white hair, and he was looking as proud as Julius Caesar was there to meet her, right? So he you can also find out that his clothes, so the old man's clothes were nothing but a fragile. When we talk about fragile, means called as a worn out or not in a not in a good dress. But I did not notice that till later. He took her little satchel. When we talk about little satchel means known as a bag carried on the shoulder by a long strap, and also closed by a flap. That's known as a satchel. He took a little satchel and they started over the plank. So when we talk about plank is known as a long, thin, flat piece of timber used especially in a building and a flooring. So his clothes were worn out, but I did not notice that till later. He took a little bag and they started over the means that the called as a wood walks and went up a road along the hill. I kept along a pace, or I also kept the same kind of a speed behind them. So and trying to look like what I was means hunting a garnet ring. So when we talk about garnet is called as a semi-precious gemstone. So I was hunting a garnet ring in the sand that my sister had lost at a picnic, but the previous Saturday. So in that case, here you would find out. He was pretending. He was pretending that what? He was pretending that he was searching for a ring, right? So, and that ring, which was made up of a red color precious gemstone in the sand. So, and he created a story that what his sister had lost the ring last Saturday when they were out for a picnic there. So they went in a gate on top of the hill. Uh, so who they means referring to that old man and the girl. So it nearly took my breath when I looked up there in the biggest grove. So group is called as a small wood or other group of trees. So that's called as the biggest group. So I had ever seen was a huge house with round white pillars about 1,000 feet high, and the yard was so full of rose bushes and box bushes and lilacs. Lilacs is generally referred to as a means a flower, right? Lilacs that you could not have seen the house if it had not been as big as the Capitol. Capitol is called as a large building used for function of the state government. So Capitol at Washington. So in that case, we understood that when they finally reached the top hill or a hilltop, so John saw that the pair had gone through a gate, and he then saw, a huge house, which made him surprised. He was not expecting such a big house to be there on the hilltop. So, and there was a small version of wood in the garden. The pillars on which the house stood up was nothing but 1,000 feet high. The yard or the area was full of bushes of rich green leaves, roses, and lilacs. John felt like what the house was as grand as the Capitol in Washington. So, in that case, when we talk about trail means what? That's something called to move slowly, isn't it? So, and here, here is where I have to trail. Here is where I have to trail. So it means here is I have to go slowly or move slowly. So means who said to whom? So he said to himself, right? Why? Now because he thought before that stage appeared to be in moderate circumstances. Moderate circumstances means called as a you can say that circumstances means referring as a situation. At least this must be the governor's mansion. So it seems like what the mansion or the house or the big means big house is considered as nothing but a government's house or the agricultural building of a new world fair, right? So anyhow, I would or I had better go back to the village and get posted by the postmaster for some information. So get posted is called to get some information on what is happening, right? So then after you find out that he saw the large building, John said to himself that he was going to stop following the girl, right? Or he became slow and he was going to back to the village for now. So he felt that what the girl was in a good financial state and that she lived in nothing but a big house, a governor's mansion, or the building, which was nothing but a huge enough to accommodate or to keep an international exhibition. So he decided to go to the post office, and there he would collect some information regarding the girl from the postmaster. So in the village, I found what a fine hotel. I found a what a fine hotel called the Bayview House, right? So the only Bayview House. So Bayview House is nothing but considered as a fine hotel. The only excuse for the name was what? A bay hearse. So what do you mean by bay hearse? A bay hearse is nothing but a hearse whose hair color or hair color coat is nothing but a bay, right? So here you would find out the only excuse for the name was a bay horse that is grazing in the front yard. I set my sample case down. Sample case means a briefcase that contains some of the samples of a particular product, and tried to be ostensible. Ostensible means to pretend that you're or you showing. I told the landlord I was taking orders for plate glass. Right. I was taking orders for what? Plate glass. By and by, I got him down to local gossip and answering questions. Right. So John went back to the village and he found a hotel named Bayview House, which was a well-established hotel. The reason why means it was named Bayview House was because there was a bay-colored horse walking on the grass in the front yard. Right. He then, contacted the landlord and set down his briefcase in front of him, which contained a sample of plate glass. He tried to convince the landlord to buy or order some plate glass. And this indicated that nothing but John was a door-to-door seller, meaning that he went from one house to another, knocking on the door and asking the occupant or the people living in the house to purchase his or his company's product. After some time in which the landlord and John talked to each other, John was able to change his topic of a plate glass and was able to get the landlord to tell him about the latest local gossip and to answer some of his questions. Right. So then after you would find out why he said, right, or says he, I thought everybody knew who lived in the big white house on the hill. Right. I knew that what? I thought everybody knew who lived in the big white house on the hill. It's Colonel Allen. So who lived in the big house on the hill? It's Colonel Allen, the biggest man and finest quality in Virginia, or anywhere else. They are the oldest family in the state. That was his daughter who had got off the train, and she has been up to Illinois to see her aunt who is sick. So you can find out that here John asked the landlord that what if he knew who lived in the big white house on the hill. So the landlord first asked why. What was the reason? So why he wanted to know that. He was surprised also. The landlord was also surprised that what? To know that John did not know who lived there. Because everybody or everyone in Virginia and the neighboring states knew the man who lived there. So was nothing but a Colonel Allen. So who was nothing but the biggest man, richest man of the finest quality that could not be found anywhere else. He and his family were the oldest family in Virginia. It means that his ancestors had lived there only. He had a daughter who happened to be the girl, right? Who happened to be the girl John, who happened to be the girl whom John was following, right? So the girl, the landlord told John, had been traveling in the train. And where did she go? She went to Illinois. Why? Now, because to visit her aunt. So, what is the reason of going to her aunt's house? Because her aunt, who was currently ill. So, I registered at the hotel. I registered at the hotel, and on the third day, I caught the young lady, right? So, who was walking in the front yard, down next to the paling fence or paling. So, what do you mean by paling? Paling means called as a fence made from pointed wooden or you can say metal post, right? So, I registered at the hotel, and on the third day, I caught the young lady who was walking in the front yard, down next to the paling fence. I stopped and raised my hat. I stopped and raised my hat. There was not any other way. So, means, excuse me, says I. Can you tell me where Mr. Hinkle lives? Right. So here you would find out that what I stopped and raised my hat. When we say that raised my hat or raised one's hat, it means to briefly remove one's hat as a gesture of, respect to somebody. I stopped and gave my respect. So, and then after you said there was not any other way. And I said, excuse me, I say, can you tell me where Mr. Hinkle lives? So John told the writer that he had registered at the hotel, so meaning that he booked a room for himself so that he could have a place to stay and sleep. So on the third day of being at the hotel, he saw that what the young lady walking in the front yard, she was near the fence, that is the boundary of the yard. You can say that the fence was made out of pointed wooden, or you can say that metal post. And he went to the girl. He raised his hat to show courtesy or show respect to the young lady. He then interacted with the lady and asked her if she could tell him where Mr. Hinkle lived. And he was also trying to start a conversation with the young lady, the one he, attracted, or you can say that he admired, right? John told the writer, right? So what happened that now she looks at me. After that, what does it happen? She looks at me as cool as if I was the man come to see about the weeding. So when we said that weeding of the garden, so you can say that means following, or you can say that observing the garden. But I thought I saw just a slight twinkle of fun in her eyes. No one of that name lives in Bristol. So who said? The girl said. That is, she goes on, as far as I know, right? Well, that tickled me. No, no kidding. I say, I'm not looking for smoke, even if I do come from Pittsburgh. So you can see that what John told the writer that what the woman looked at him in a very coolly manner, right? Uh, in a manner that indicated that she thought John to be the man who had come to see about the weeding of the garden, right? Or what John meant to say was that the woman thought John to be the inferior, right? John to be inferior to her and to be of the same class as a gardener. So he could see a tiny twinkle of fun in her eyes. So who means John, so, and means that the woman wanted to make a fun of whom? Fun of that person. And also the twinkle indicated that the woman knew that Judd was just trying to following or called her just start a conversation with her. Right. And she thought it would be fun to go along with him. She then answered his question by saying that she did not think that anyone of that name lived in Bristol. Right. So her response amused John, and so John said that he was not looking for someone who did not exist, right? Exist, right? He told her that he came from Pittsburgh, right? So immediately, she said that you are quite a distance from home, right? I would have gone 1,000 miles farther. I say, so John said, so not if you had not woken up when the train started in Shelbyville. So she says, not if you had not woken up when the train started in Shelbyville. So, and then she turned almost as red as one of the roaches on the bushes in the yard. I remembered I had dropped off to sleep on a bench in the Shelbyville station, waiting to see which train she took, and only just managed to wake up in time. So the lady, made a comment that he was quite far away from home. Who? John was quite far away from home. So John said that he would have even gone 1,000 miles further. So, and John meant to say that he could be even further away from home in order to keep the lady in his sight. Right. So that's what John wanted to say that, but John did not say that means in order to keep the lady in his sight. So the lady further said that he would not have been able to go 1,000 miles further if he had not woken up when the train started in Shelbyville. It means the girl means noticed John where in Shelbyville. Then she turned that's something called as red as one of the roaches on the bushes in the yard. and it means that she was blessing. And John revealed to the writer that what he had accidentally fallen asleep on the bench in the Selby village station. So while waiting for the lady, it means he was following the lady. He had woken up right on time to see where she was going. Therefore, the lady's blessing indicated that what she knew that John was stalking or following her from the very beginning. And then John told the lady why had he come. So, as respectful and honest as I could, and I told her everything about myself and what I was making and how that all I asked was just to get acquainted with her and try to get her to like me. So she smiles a little and blushes some, but her eyes never get mixed up. They look straight at whom they look straight at to whomsoever she was talking to. So in that case, if you talk about the idea, John told the writer that he then told the lady the reason why he had come to Virginia. Now, he had come to Virginia in a respectful and sincere manner. So he told the lady in a respectful and sincere manner that why he had come to Virginia. So he told the lady everything about himself, about his occupation, and about how he was trying to get the woman to talk to him and fall in love with him. So after he had finished telling her everything, so the woman smiled and blushed, and she was, the lady was embarrassed to know that he wanted her to fall in love with him, right? So John pointed out that even when the woman is embarrassed, she looked straight at the person with whom she was talking to, and John liked that about the woman. So then John also said that I never had anyone talk like this to me before, Mr. Prescott. So the lady said to John, "What did you say? Your name is John." So John said that John A, right? And you came mighty near missing the train at Powhatan Junction too. She said with a laugh that sounded as good as a uh, you can say that mileage book to me. So when we talk about mileage book, it is known as a what? A book or ticket containing coupons good for a certain number of miles of transportation at a fixed rate per mile. So here you would find out the woman told John that no one had talked like that to her before. And this meant that it was the first time someone was confessing his love for the woman to her. So she then confirmed if his name was John A. Piscott or John Piscott. And John said that no, it was John A. Piscott. So she then added that he almost missed the uh, trend at Powhatan Johnson. She said that with a laugh, right? Because she knew that means John Piscott missed, right? So she then added that how John Piscott almost missed the train at Powhatan Johnson. She said this with a laugh. John described her laughter to be similar to a mileage book. Mileage book means it's like a free coupon uh, that he liked the girl's laughter. So then after, means John Piscott also asked, "How did you know?" So means the girl said that men are very clumsy. I know you were on every train. I thought you were going to speak to me, and I am glad you didn't. Right? Then we had more talk, and at last a kind of a proud. So serious look came on her face, and she turned and pointed a finger at the big house. So when you find out that John asked her that how she came to know that he almost missed the train. So, means, because he was curious, John was curious to know that this because he had tried his best to stay out of her eyes or sight. She then after the girl answered that men were very clumsy. Clumsy means clumsy is called as awkward in movement or in handling things. Right. It means that according to her, that men did not know how to handle things as properly as women. She further also added that she knew that he was on every train, right? She had taken. So she feared that he would stop her and talk to her. Um, uh, you can say that, yeah, talk to her, and you can say that irritated her. So uh, she said that she was grateful that what she had, that John Piscott had not done anything like that. John told the writer what? John told the writer that they talked more and more. Why? More. And there came a point in their conversation when, the girl started looking proud and serious. Right. It indicated that she was proud of her family and wealth, and that she seriously wanted John to know more about her and her family. So the woman turned away from John and pointed at the big house with her finger. The big house was nothing but the one where he had last seen the girl, right? So she says the alliance. So the alliance um, that have lived in Elmcroft for 100 years. We are a proud family. Look at that mansion. It had 50 rooms. See the pillars and porches and balconies. The ceilings in the reception rooms and the ballrooms are 28 feet high. My father is a lineal descendant of the belted earls, right? Now, when you look at the kind of a word, Dalen said she have lived in Elmcroft for 100 years. Elmcroft is the name of the place. So for 100 years, we are a proud family. Then after look at that mansion. So that mansion has 50 rooms. See the pillars and porches and balconies. Pillars, porches, and balconies. The ceilings in the reception rooms and the ballrooms is nothing but a called as a dancing or dining room are 28 feet high. My father is a, you can say that, lineal descendant. When we talk about lineal, it means called as a direct line of descent or ancestry. So my father is nothing but direct line or called as a ancestry of the belted earls. So belted earl means called as a British nobleman between a viscount and marks, right? Or belted earl is nothing but called as a, until the 17th century, an earl, right? An earl means a nobleman was invested by the king with a sword he wore at his waist, hence he was called a belted earl. So belted earl is nothing but called as a person, right? So or called as a, in the past 17th century. So generally the British nobleman who wore what? Who wore means sword, right? Who wore sword at his, you can say that, vest. Therefore, he was called a belted earl. So the woman here explained that the Alliance had lived in where Elmcraft for a century of or 100 years. They were, considered as the prideful family, and that is they were proud of their prosperity and achievements. The woman then asked John to look at the mansion. She pointed out the details of the mansion, that the mansion had 50 rooms, pillars, porches, balconies, and reception rooms and ballroom with the 28 feet high ceilings, right? Though, so the woman's father was the descendant in the direct line of ancestry of the belted earls, right? So, and she continues, she goes on and stating that, of course, my father would not allow a drummer, right? Drummer means what? Drummer means called as a traveling sales representative. My father would not allow a drummer to set his foot in Elmcraft, right? A sales representative. So my father did not allow any sales representative to put his foot in Elmcraft. If he knew that I was talking to one over the fence, so I was talking one of the means a sales representative over the fence, he would lock me in my room. Would you let me come there? So I say, so John Episcot said that. Would you talk to me if I was to call? I go on. If you said yes, I might come and see you. So here the woman, you can say that, went on and said that his father not allow a person who was a sales representative to set foot in Elmcraft. She meant to say that John was too poor to meet and talk with her. She added that if her father came to know that his daughter was talking to a man like John John Piscad over the fence of Elmcraft, he would uh, lock, lock her in lock her in a room And hence she meant to say that she was not even allowed to talk to men like John, and falling in love with him would never be allowed. So John then asked the woman if she would allow him come to Elmcroft, and if she would talk to him, if he would visit the house. So he said that he would come and visit her if she would say yes. So he was indirectly asking her if she liked him, right? So then after the girl said that, but I must not talk to you because we have not been introduced. It is not exactly proper. So I will say goodbye, Mr. Say the name. I say, you haven't forgotten it. Piscut. So she says, a little mad. Right. So Piscut, she says, a little mad. So you can find out the woman did not answer his questions. She probably knew what those questions meant. She told John that she require or she ought not to talk to him because they did not have a proper introduction, and her father was not acquainted with him. She was then about to bid him or say him goodbye when he interrupted her and asked her to say his name. She said his last name with a little anger or annoyance. She said, what? His last name with a little anger or annoyance. So then, then after what happened? The rest of the name I demanded. So author also said that you have told only the last name. Tell me the rest of the name. I demanded as cool as I could be. So she says, John. So I said, John what? So she said, John with her head high. Are you through now? Right. So John demanded her to say the full name in a cool manner. And she said, John. John pushes her to say the complete name. And she finally said it was nothing but a John a Pescar. Right. I'm coming to see the belted earl tomorrow. So who said? I said. I said means John a Pescar said. He will feed you to his foxhounds. She said. The girl said that what he will feed you to his foxhounds, laughing. So, and I say that if he does, it will improve their running. Right. I'm something of a hunter myself. So she says, I must be going in now. I ought not to have spoken to you at all. I hope you will have a pleasant trip back to Minneapolis or Pittsburgh. Was it? Goodbye. So you can find out that John told that the woman that he would come to the mansion to see the belted earl the next day. So the belted earl is the woman's father. Right. So John told the woman what? That he would come to the mansion to see whom? See the belted earl. Belted earl means a woman's father. The woman replied that her father would kill him and give him to whom? Give the remains of his body to the foxhounds or a group of foxes for eating. So, and she said this by while laughing, and it means that she found his determination foolish and also making fun of it. So John did not get scared by his this threat, and he said that if her father would be doing that, it would improve the speed and function of the means a group of the foxes. He added that he too was a hunter, and so he had great knowledge about hounds. Right? He probably said that to impress her. She then told him that she should go back to her home. Right? She also said that she should not have talked to him because now he was even more motivated to come closer to her. Right? She wished him a pleasant trip back to his own hometown. She got confused about his hometown and could not remember where he was from. So she did not want to interact with John any longer, and so she said goodbye to John Episcot. Right? So and good John Episcot also said that good night, and it was not Minneapolis, right? And it was not Minneapolis. What's your name first, please? So Joanna Piscott said, so, or asked. She hesitated. Then she pulled a leaf up a bush and said, my name is Jessie, she said. So, good night, Miss Allen, I say. So, John wished her good night and informed her that he was from Pittsburgh, not from Minneapolis. He then asked her first name respectfully. She hesitated to give her first name to him. She turned her, gaze away from him and, plucked a leaf from the nearby bush. And this indicated that she was shy and also confident at that moment, unconfident or diffident at that moment. She finally told him her first name, which was Jessie. John again wished her good night, and he meant to tell her that he would stop the conversation and not disturb her any longer. He also called her Miss Allen, meaning that he did not want to make the woman uncomfortably by calling her by her first name, which is Jessie. Right. So the next morning at 11 sharp. So when John Opiska did what? Rang the doorbell of that World Fair main building. After about three quarters of an hour, right, an old man of about age 80, right, means three quarters of an hour, an old man of about 80 showed up and asked what I wanted. I gave him my business card, and John Opiska said I wanted to see the call now. So he showed me in. Right. Now, uh, I said, did you ever crack open a wormy English walnut? Right. That's what that house was like. There was not enough furniture uh, in it to fill an $8 flat. Some old horse hair means hair from mane or tail of a horse, typically used in furniture for paddling. Right. Some old horsehair lounges and legged chairs, and some framed ancestors on the walls were all that met the eye. But when Colonel Allen comes in, the place appeared to light up. You could almost hear a band playing and see a bunch of old timers in wigs, right? Oh, old timers. Old timers means old people, people who were young and lived through the old times, isn't it? So, old timers in wigs and white talking, right? So, white stocking dance or quadrille. So, white stocking. Um, what does it say? That white stockings dancing or quadrille. So when you say that quadrille, means it indicates that a square dance for four couples. Quadrille, we generally call it a four, right? A square dance for four couples. So it was the style of him, although he had on the same shabby clothes I saw him wear at the station. For about 9 seconds, he had me rattled. He had me rattled. Rattled means confused or nervous. And I came mighty near getting cold feet and trying to sell him some plate glass. But I got my nerve back. Right. I got my nerve, means confidence. So nerve back pretty quick. He asked me to sit down and I told him everything. I told him how I had followed his daughter from Cincinnati and what I did it for, and all about my salary and prospects, and explains to him my little code of living to be always decent and right in your hometown. At first, means I thought he was going to throw me out of the window, but I kept on talking. Right. So, what you can find out that John here told the writer that he went to the mansion the next morning and it was 11 o'clock sharp. He rang the doorbell, right, of the World Fair main building. He called the mansion the World Fair main building because that welfare main building is nothing but a mansion, so which he called because it stood out in the area. And after three quarters of an hour, right, which is called as a 45 minutes, three quarters of an hour, so 45 minutes, an uh, 80-year-old man opened the door and asked the person that what he wanted. John gave the old man his business card and also told him that he wanted to see the colonel. The old man allowed him to come inside, right? And then after John compares his first impression of the house to a wormy walnut. A wormy walnut is a walnut looks fine from the outside, but when it is cracked open, we see nothing but the worm inside. Therefore, John meant that to say that the mansion looked breathtaking from the outside, but the inside did not appear to be so beautiful, right? The amount of furniture used to decorate the big house was far too less. John said that it would not fill an $8 flat, meaning that the amount of furniture was so low that it could not even fill a cheap, right, small flat. There were some lounges made of horsehair, three-legged chairs, and the portraits of the ancestors of the Allens on the wall. According to John, what the people in the framed photograph were all that made the eye. This meant that the ancestor looked straight, cold, and unfriendly. Right, the kind of a people who would appeared to be unagreeable with the others. Then he saw that the what colonel, Jesse's father, right, had arrived too. When the colonel entered the room, the place, brightened. The old man, who was still wearing the same shabby clothes from before, had an elegant aura which brought John to a whole new world. So he could hear a band playing orchestral music and could see pairs of old people, so men wearing wigs, so people who are men wearing wigs and women wearing white stockings and doing nothing but a dance called quadrille. So four couples dancing together in a square box. John was surprised and also attracted to the sudden beauty and elegance and the sudden change in the environment, that he became nervous. He felt like what he should either sell him some plate glass or just run away. However, his nervousness lasted for about 9 seconds. Why? Now, because the colonel invited him to sit down, and from there, their conversation began. John told him that what about everything. He told him why he had come to his mansion, that he had been following his daughter from Cincinnati and the region, why he followed her. He also gave some information about himself, about his salary, how wealthy he was and was going to be in the near future. His code of living, which was to be decent and to work in your hometown. John thought his efforts would go to West once he would tell the colonel that he followed his daughter. He feared that he would be thrown out of the house from the window. However, the colonel did not interrupt. He feared that he would be thrown out of his house from the window. However, the colonel did not interrupt him, and John kept on talking. Right. So, well, that got him laughing, and uh, I'll bet that was the first laugh those ancestors and horsehair sofa had heard in many a day. We talked to 2 hours. I told him everything I knew. And then he began to ask questions, and I told him the rest. All I asked of was to give me a chance. If I could not make a hit with a little lady, I would clear out and not bother them anymore at last. Right? And not bother them anymore. And at last he says, right? So when John completed telling the colonel about himself, the colonel also laughed, and it indicated that he found his code of living special and amusing. John believed that it was the first time uh, that he laughed, and ancestors his laugh, right? So his laugh, the ancestors and her share so far had heard in after a long time. He was faces of mm, commenting on the unfriendly faces of the ancestors and the bad condition of the sofa, and the man and the old man and John of Piscot, means they continued talking for 2 hours. John told him everything he knew about himself, right? The colonel then started asking questions, and John gave him the answers. In the end, what happened? John asked to give him a chance to prove himself worthy of his daughter, because he loved his daughter and he wanted to marry his daughter. So therefore, he told daughter's father that at least gave him the chance to prove himself. Um, that whether he was worthy of his daughter or not. He said that if he would not appear suitable enough for his daughter, he could say so, and he would walk away and never bother them again. Right. So there was a Sir Cot, you can say that there was a Sir Courtney Piscot, right, in the time of Charles I, right? There was a Sir Courtney Piscot in the time of Charles I, if I remember rightly. If there was, I say, he can't claim kin with our bunch. We have always lived in and around Pittsburgh. I have got an uncle in the real estate business, right? Um, you can also say that, and one in trouble somewhere out in Kansas. You can inquire about any of the rest of us from anybody in the old smoking town and get satisfactory replies. Did you ever run across that story about the captain of the Weller who tried to make a sailor say his prayers? I say. So after John made his request, the colonel, you can say that, asked one more question, right? The colonel asked one more question. He asked if there was a colonel named what? Sir Courtney Piscott, isn't it? During the reign of Charles I, right? So, and if he was the ancestor of John, so John was honest and said that he had no knowledge of such a man. He added that since none of his ancestors were what? A colonel or royal. So even if Sir Courtney Piscott existed, right? So he had no relation with his ancestors. His ancestors grew up and lived in or around Pittsburgh. So who said? John of Pittsburgh said. He also informed the colonel of his two uncles, one who was in the real estate business and the other who was in some sort of, you can say, trouble and was living in Kansas. So Kansas is also another name of the place or another place. So John wanted to present himself as the what most uh, trustworthy man a trustworthy man, the colonel could get his daughter. And so he told him that he could go and ask about his family from anyone in the smoky town. He said that the colonel would get many satisfactory replies from the people living there. He then asked the colonel if he knew the story about the captain of the Weller who tried to make the sailor pray to God. Right. So Mansu, John Piscott said, asked the colonel whether he knew the story about what? About the captain, right? Captain of the whole Weller who tried to, make the sailor pray to God. So it occurs to me that what I have never been so fortunate, right? The colonel says. So I told to him, laugh. I told it to him, laugh, right? I was wishing to myself that he was a customer. What a bill of glass I would sell him. And then he says, the relating of anecdotes and humorous occurrence has always seemed to me, Mr. Piscott, to be a particularly agreeable way of promoting and perpetuating amenities between friends. So, with your permission, I will relate to you a fox hunting story, right, with which I was personally connected and which may furnish you some amusement. Now, observe that means the old man is stating here. So, that what the colonel answered that he was not lucky enough to know such a story. Right. Then John told him the story which made the colonel laugh. John told the writer that what means he wished that the colonel would become his customer. Right. He said that what because he felt like he could impress the colonel quite easily, which would result in the colonel buying a ton of plate glass from him. The colonel said that he personally believed that exchanging stories was a good way to build and grow a relationship between two people. He then said that if John would give his permission, he would narrate a story about himself, right? So means what kind of a story? That when he went fox hunting, the colonel believed that John would find the story amusing. So he said that 2 evenings later, uh, I got a chance to speak a word with Miss Jessie alone on the perch while the colonel was thinking up another story. It is going to be a fine evening, I say. He is coming, she says. He is going to tell you this time the story about the old African and the green watermelons. It always comes after the one about the Yankees and the game rooster, right? So there was another time, she goes on, that you nearly got left. It was a Pulaski city. So you can find out that John told the writer that 2 evenings after he talked to Colonel, he finally got a chance to what speak with Miss Jessie for a short duration. And John Piscott and Jesse were alone on the perch. John was waiting for the colonel. So, and colonel who was thinking of another story to narrate before the John. John told the woman that it was going to be a joyful evening. Jesse told him that this time The colonel was going to tell him what? The story about the old African and the green watermelon. So it is the name of the story. She already knew that he was going to narrate this story, as it was his habit to narrate this story after narrating the story about the Yankees and the game rooster. Right. So please do remember this. Yankees, the game roosters, then you would find out the old African and the green watermelons. Right. So then after Jesse then changed the topic and reminded John that he almost missed the train and lost sight of her at Pulaski City. Right. So when John Piscott said, yes, I remember my foot slipped as I was jumping on the step and I nearly tumbled off. I nearly tumbled off. So Um, I know, he says, and I was afraid you had. John of Piscard, I was afraid you had. And then she skips into the house through one of the big windows. So you can say that John told Jesse that he remembered that, and that the reasons why he almost missed her was because his foot slipped when he was jumping on the step. He almost fell off the platform. Jesse replied that she knew that, and she was worried that he would miss the train. And this indicated that Jesse was becoming fond of John. Then, after saying that, Jesse quickly entered the house by jumping in through one of the big windows. So, Cooktown, the porter droned, right? Cooktown, the porter droned, making his way through the slowing car. Piscard gathered his hat and baggage with the leisurely promptness of an old traveler. So John said, I married her a year ago. I told you I built a house in the East End. The belted, I mean the colonel is there too. I find him waiting at the gate whenever I get back from a trip to hear and any new story I might have picked up on the road. So here you would find out that what means colonel droned the porter. So when you say droned means called as a speak tediously, a dull, or you can say in a very lazy word tone, right? So means here the writer said that what means how did John Piscott said the porter, that is the person who carried the luggage, so was making his way from one end to the car uh, to another, and he was continuously saying the word Cooktown, Cooktown, which indicated that the car was going to reach Cooktown very soon. Right. So the writers saw that the car was, slowing down because they were about to reach their destination. And Piscott, who was traveling to Coketown, gathered his hat and bags in a relaxed manner, but also with, immediate or promptness, because he did not want to miss his stop. He told the writer the end of his story, and he married to whom? Jesse, a year ago, and built a house for them in the East. The colonel lived with them. Whenever John Piscott went back home, he saw that what the colonel was eagerly waiting for John Piscott. Why? Now, because he wanted to hear another story, right? So the writer glanced out of the window. Cooktown was nothing more than a ragged, you understand, that called as a rough or uneven surface or edge, dotted with a score of black dismal huts propped up. Dismal is called as a gloomy, or called as a you can say that what does it say? Cooktown was nothing more than a rough hillside spotted with a score means called as a number of black dismal gloomy huts means called as a gloomy houses propped up is called as a supported against a dreary mounts. Dreary is called as a depressingly or dull and bleak mounts of slag. Slag is called as a stony waste matters separated from metals during the smelting or refining. So it rained in slanting torrents. Slanting means one side, a strong and fast moving stream of water or other liquid, right? Two, and the rails foamed and splashed down through the black mud to the railroad tracks. So the writer, looked at what glanced to see Coketown. He was, very unhappy, displeased. Why? Because of the scenery, the scene of that Cooktown. He saw that what Cooktown was nothing but a hillside with a rough part which was spotted with nothing but a several black and uh, gloomy huts, or called as a dull, not appearing good huts. Huts means small houses that are supported by nothing but a mounds of west. So a gathering of west, and it rained in slanting and fast moving fashion, which brought a lot of mud to the railroad tracks. Right. So you won't sell much plate glass here, John. I said, why do you get off at this end of the world? So why? Biscuit said. The other day I took Jessie for a little trip to Philadelphia, and coming back, she thought she saw some petunias in a pot in one of those windows over there, just like some she used to raise down in the old Virginia home. So I thought I would drop off here for the night and see if I could dig up some of the cuttings or blossoms for her. Here we are. Good night, old man. I gave you the address. Come out and see us when you have time. So the writer told his friend that he would not be able to sell much plate glass here. He then commented on the bad location and asked him why he wanted to get off at this place, which appeared to represent the end of the world. John told him that his wife once saw some petunias in a pot in one of the windows of the dismal huts. The petunias reminded Jessie of the flowers she used to grow back in Virginia. So John was thinking of getting some cuttings or blossoms for her. She then said goodbye to the writer and also asked him to visit him and his wife when he would have enough time to do so. Right. So the train moved forward. One of the dotted brown ladies insisted on having windows raised. Right. So now that the train had started beating against them, the porter came along with his mysterious wand and began to light the car. So I glanced downward and saw the bestseller. I picked it up and set it carefully farther along on the floor of the car, where the raindrops would not fall upon it. And then suddenly I smiled and seemed to see that life has no geographical bounds. Right. So here you would find out that John got off the train and the train began to move forward. One of the ladies wearing the brown dress requested the writer to close the window as the rain was now pouring from the window and into the car. The porter was using his mysterious wand to make the car move forward. The writer looked down and saw that what the book John was reading. So that was there. The writer picked that book and put it further along the floor of the car in a place where the you can say rain would not ruin the book, right? So he then smiled as he realized how similar the story of that bestseller was to John's love story, and therefore life had no geographical bounds, right? So good luck to you traveling. Who said? The writer said, and may you get the petunias for your princess. So the writer finally shouted out from the window to John, and he referred to John O'Piscot as what's as Trevelyan, right? The protagonist or the main character of the bestseller, as they were both quite similar. So he referred to Jessie as the princess in the book, and he wished petunias, no? So once it is stated, good luck to you, traveling. Who? That John of Piscot. And I said, and may you get the who? Princess. Petunias for your princess. So Jessie as the princess in the book. And he wished John of Piscot good luck and that he may get the petunias for his princess. Okay. So this is what nothing but called as a end of the story or end of the play. Okay,
Yes, sir.
did you understand that?
Yes, sir.
So when we talk about that petunias, can you tell that what that petunias is all about?
It's a gift.
Yeah, it's a gift. So what's the time? It's a 10:16. So finally, the bestseller
Yes.
is done, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So fine, let's leave the class and bye for now. And we'll meet in the next class. Right. Any other chapter is left?
Yes, so the last chapter,
What is that last chapter?
Song of the Rain.
Okay, that is left. Fine. We'll discuss that in the next class. Okay. Hmm. So petunias are nothing but a popular genus of flowering plants native to South America. So you can say that it's a you can say that flower, right? So they have soft green and slightly, you can also say that sticky leaves. Right. Okay, fine. No issue. We'll meet in the next class. Till then, bye bye.
Good night.
Good night.